Long ago, in the shining kingdom of Eldoria, there stood a golden castle whose towers touched the clouds. Inside it sat the most beautiful crown ever made, the Crown of Eldoria, glittering with jewels of every color. The crown had one rule whispered through generations: only a heart that rules with kindness can carry its weight. For years it rested on the head of Queen Amelia, a wise and fair ruler loved by all. She treated her people with gentleness and listened to their voices. Every morning she walked through the marketplace, greeting farmers and children by name. But one winter's night, Queen Amelia grew very ill. When she passed, the kingdom wept. And because she had no family left, the royal council gathered in the grand hall to decide who would rule next. Among the palace workers stood Richard, the stable boy. He had served the castle since he was a child, polishing armor, feeding horses, and quietly watching as rulers came and went. He was humble, clever, and kind, though many nobles ignored him. When the council opened the Queen's final letter, they gasped. It read, "Let the next ruler be the one who has known both service and patience. The heart that has bowed shall best understand how to lead." At first, everyone looked around in confusion, until their eyes fell on Richard. He trembled. "Me? But I'm only a stable boy." The oldest counselor nodded kindly. "Perhaps that's why you were chosen." The next day, before the gathered crowd, Richard was crowned King of Eldoria. The people cheered, a commoner on the throne, a ruler who would understand their struggles. For a time, Eldoria was filled with hope. At first, King Richard tried to rule justly. He fixed the broken roads and visited the villages. But slowly, the whispers began. Some nobles mocked his old clothes. Some servants giggled when he used the wrong fork at banquets. Some guards still called him boy behind his back. The laughter cut deep. Richard began to change. He built higher walls around the palace. He ordered servants to bow lower and speak softer. The people who had once been his friends now avoided his gaze. He remembered every insult, every unkind word, and he began to use his power to repay them. A cook who once scolded him had to bake endless cakes until his hands blistered. A guard who had shouted at him was forced to stand watch through the coldest nights. And though the palace gleamed brighter than ever, the laughter and music that once filled it were gone. One stormy night, Richard sat alone in his grand hall. The crown of Eldoria glittered on his head, but it felt heavier than stone. He stared at his reflection in the mirror. He didn't see the kind stable boy anymore. He saw a man frowning, fearful, angry at everyone, even himself. In that moment, the crown shimmered faintly and whispered, "You wear me, but you do not carry me." Richard froze. The voice came from nowhere and everywhere. "You were chosen for your heart," it continued, "but you filled it with bitterness. Kindness lifted you up. Pride will pull you down." Tears filled Richard's eyes. He took off the crown and placed it gently on the table. The next morning, Richard went to the village square with no royal robe, no crown, just his old stable clothes. He helped fix a broken cart. He listened to an old woman's troubles. He sat with children as they played in the mud, laughing for the first time in many months. When people realized who he was, they were shocked. "Your Majesty," a merchant cried, "you shouldn't be out here." Richard smiled softly. "Maybe this is where a king should be." From that day on, Eldoria changed again, not through orders, but through example. The king listened more, forgave more, and ruled not with fear, but with understanding. The laughter returned to the castle, the gardens bloomed brighter, and when Richard placed the crown on his head once more, it felt light, as if the jewels themselves had forgiven him. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Bye.